Welcome to the SuperPod podcast. I'm Emily Ball from Active Step Healthcare in Hampshire, and I'm thrilled today to be joined by Jessey, who is a nutritional therapist from Be Nourished. How are you?
I'm good, thank you, Emily. Thank you so much for having me on today.
It's an absolute
pleasure. Real privilege, and I'm so pleased that we're getting to discuss these really important topics. So thank you.
Absolutely. So tell us about yourself.
So I am a nutritional therapist. I have been in practice now for 10 years. It's gone so quickly, and I love my job. I actually hold a master's degree in personalised nutrition, so I'm very much focused on taking my clients right back to basics, looking at things like stress, digestive health, neurological health, and most importantly, gut health as well.
Great. So tell us about the kind of clients that you actually see.
So primarily, I think if we can talk pre and post-COVID, well, we're not quite post-COVID yet, but pre-COVID, it was very much clients would come to me in relation to body composition, a lot of sports clients. So I have a lot of athletes and amateur athletes and people just starting out to increase their health and increase their performance. But really, since COVID has struck, a lot of these people are experiencing more and more issues with relation to fatigue and post-viral fatigue and long COVID. I'm seeing a lot. So I've had to really adapt the way that I practice to support my clients' immune health going forward.
Okay, and how have you adapted? What exactly are you
So really, it's about learning. So I've connected with a lot of really prolific scientists who are working within this field. I've been attending conferences and courses on long COVID, really looking at what the NHS are doing. So they set up a great supportive program now with regards to supporting people through long COVID, because it's not just about fatigue, it's about how their body is functioning, how their brains are now functioning. So there's a lot of support that people need, especially if they've really suffered.
Okay. I mean, certainly in our patient cohort, we've got people that have had COVID.
Yes.
What kind of advice would you be giving to people? What are the top tips as a nutritionist would you be giving to people?
So really, it's about always whole foods. So if you can clean up the diet as much as possible, because you have to imagine that the cells are now tired, and that the act of fatigue isn't necessarily that they're not getting the nutrients they need, but they need more of it because your body is more metabolically active. So what we need to do is make sure that the diet is as clean as possible. You're getting proper hydration, getting out in sunshine, vitamin D, things like that are really, really important for recovery. And it's really tempting, especially for athletes and sports people and very active people. They want to kind of get on and carry on with their old routine, but rest is probably one of the most important things.
So I see a lot of people that maybe they've been at a certain level up until they got COVID.
Yeah.
And they're really frustrated that they can't train at that same level.
Yeah.
And I'm almost seeing them in this kind of obsessive state where they're trying to get back to the level they were at pre-COVID. Yeah. What are the effects that are happening to their body by overtraining in their current state?
So if you imagine, it's almost like a hyperactive stress response that they're going through at the moment. So we think about stress as being stressed and being outwardly, kind of in a stressed state, but the body reacts in the same way to kind of viruses, internal stressors like blood sugar levels, which you've covered with Donal. And so there's lots of metabolic functions that can occur, which mean that the body is in this stressed state. So the body needs to get back to a particular balance. And in order to do that, you do have to strip things right back and start again. So with the athletes that are finding it really frustrating, they have to rest. That's the most important thing. They have to nourish themselves, because the cells at the moment, they're trying to pull on everything that they possibly can to get in the body, but you need more of it, if that makes sense. So overtraining is going to just exacerbate that stress response. It's going to pull out all of those nutrients to divert it to the energy it needs to cope with that exercise.
Now, I know you're a very holistic therapist, so you don't just talk to patients or your clients about nutrition.
Yeah.
You talk about all the other components that they can manage.
Yeah.
Tell us some of your top tips aside from nutrition that can also help bring down these internal stresses.
Oh, absolutely. So things like Well, obviously, if you can rest, if you can get out in nature, I really, really strongly advocate being out in nature, because one, you can walk, so you can keep the pace that's at the right level as you are, but also you can get a lot from connecting with the birds singing, and this, you know, we live near the sea, so the sound of the sea, all of those things help to get you into a situation where your body is more adapted to the relaxed state of being. Things like yoga, that can still be quite a powerful thing to do, and it's really a good movement method to do when you're feeling fatigued as well.
And also some yoga instructors teach meditation.
They do, and I thoroughly recommend a modality called yin yoga, which very much works on the meridians and the flow of energy going through the body, so that's a really good one. Really important to get vitamin D as well, so from the sunshine, and I always advise everyone now coming through my clinic to have a vitamin D test, and that can be done very easily through the GP.
I know certainly women that are going through or are post-menopausal tend to have a drop in vitamin D, which can affect their bone health and their immunity as well.
Absolutely, yeah, and that's all to do with, you know, the way calcium is metabolised and how that interacts with the hormones and the decline in hormones. So there's a lot of elements that I'm looking at now in relation to everything that's going on that, it's just been highlighted a little bit more with the fatigue that we're seeing coming through.
Tell me about your thoughts on sleep hygiene.
Oh, sleep hygiene. Okay, so I did a post actually on LinkedIn about melatonin. So melatonin is our sleep hormone, and we produce it from a component called tryptophan, which we get from our food, which converts to serotonin and then melatonin. Now, there's a lot of people out there who are biohacking their sleep. Now, my take on this is, yes, sleep hygiene is really important. So it's really good to have a dark space, you know, all of your phones charging in a separate part of the house so that you haven't got the screens. But equally, having a to-do list before bedtime as well can be quite overwhelming, and it can put you in a stressed state, so you're not sleeping as well. So I think it's really important to kind of structure it in a way that works for you. So if that's having a bath before bedtime, if it's turning your screen off a couple of hours before bedtime.
It's having a routine, isn't it?
A really simple routine. So rather than kind of 6 or 7 things to do before bedtime.
Or sitting on your phone.
Sitting on your phone, and we
classic.
all do it. It's classic, but you know, some people are really quite sensitive to the lights on the screen. So if people are struggling sleeping, then that's some of the things that you can put in place to support sleep.
And also, having spoken to you and been reading myself, tell us some of the issues of people that are having poor sleep on their metabolism.
Oh, wow. So there's a number of things that can go on. So from what Donal was talking about with regards to blood sugar regulation, that can be a big one. So if you imagine if you're asleep, all of your kind of processes are going down. So they kind of start to go down, and your blood sugar levels are very much regulated. They're kept very, very stable. And then your body has the ability to then work on brain health, clearing everything up, clearing up all the used cells that have been accumulated throughout the day. So it's really a time of rest and regeneration. Now, if you're not sleeping, then your body is relying on adrenaline and cortisol to keep, it just kind of starts pumping out, and it disturbs your sleep even more. So what we see with a lot of people who have kind of been in a state where they're releasing cortisol and adrenaline at night time, that can affect their blood sugar levels.
Hormones.
They are our stress hormones. Yeah, you're absolutely right. So what you'll find is that will affect people's appetites in the morning. So a lot of people who have had an adrenaline and a cortisol output at night time, through poor sleep, may feel a bit nauseous in the morning, and therefore they might not want to eat breakfast. If you don't eat breakfast, your blood sugar levels drop further in the day. And so the counterbalance that the brain will do is say, right, we need something really quick, really satisfying, and something that's going to give us sugar. And of course, it's normally, I don't like using the word naughty, but it's normally those kind of high sugar, high fat type foods that are not going to help with that metabolic function. So you kind of go on this big up and down spike of blood sugar levels, and of course you see the end result of that with regards to health of the foot and all of those issues as well.
We've covered a lot of ground, and
there's a lot
already, so we're going to have to get you back to talk about some more specific issues. But for those people that have had COVID and are struggling to get back to their normal activities, Give us your top tips to end the podcast with.
Take pressure off yourself. So that's my number one tip. So really just be kind to your body. Listen to what your body is telling you to do. If that means that you have to take a break from exercise, take a break from exercise, or just bring it down to something a little less intensive. Whole foods all the way. So clean up your diet. Get as much nutrition, and I'm not talking about protein, fats and carbs. I'm talking about vitamins and minerals. Get them coming through the diet. Keep hydrated. Get out in the sun.
Love it. And how can people get in touch with you if they want to find out more?
Okay, so I have a website, so that is www.benourished.co.uk. I'm also on Facebook and Instagram, and I'm on LinkedIn, and it's all under Be Nourished UK.
Do you have a Facebook community too?
I do, yeah. So I've recently set up a Facebook community specifically for immune health. So I've created what I call the Immune Hub, which you can access on my website, and you can also be part of my community group. And on there is a lot of free resources and tools for you to download. So loads of recipe guides, menu plans, research papers as well, if you're really into looking at the research. So yeah, it's all there.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Well, thanks so much for joining me.
Thank
It's been
you.
fascinating, and hopefully we'll get to do this again soon.
Yeah, I'd love to. Thank you.